underway at Monza. We just had some technical difficulties with the stream and the lobby having some issues. Hopefully it's all resolved and we can get underway as planned. My name is Eric, I am your commentator for today. A little bit about myself. I drive for Speed Demon Motorsports. My co-driver Trevor is commentating Tier 1 today, and hopefully we should be in for a good race. Currently we are on board, or should I say behind, Petrolhead, who is leading us through a couple of laps prior to qualifying restarting again. I'm just organising a few things with the stewards at the moment. Everything seems to be in order and going according to plan. So today we have a decent lineup of drivers, even though it is the second tier of SRS Motorsports. It does not mean that there will be any less value of racing. Qualifier has started, and we are to see the cars on track now. Everyone seems to be getting away fine. Nobody's stuck in the pits. Excellent to see. 3 more drivers to leave pit lane, and we shall go on board with the top drivers first out. Hopefully they should give us a good show as we are let out prior to the first opening lap of qualifying. We'll go down the line of the drivers currently. Everyone's a little bit all over the place at the moment, so we'll just go by the first split. Here we go. First split is organising everybody, it seems. Okay, so we have Bo Fushidara, who is piloting the number 88 Corvette C7 GT3 with a very striking black and white paint job. Next we have Doug Barrow, who is driving for Costa Racing by SDM in the Mercedes AMG GT3. Bar 27, the third driver coming down, is driving the number 27 Aston Martin RBR Aston Martin. Iapez 11, piloting Winding Road Racing's Corvette C7 GT3 with a very nice yellow and black livery. We might just switch cameras at the moment. Next we have NXGN Mad Marshall, piloting NXGN EN Racing's Lexus RCF GT3. His teammate just passing him on the track, making it a little difficult, in the orange Lexus RCF. Mouchelot is next to come with the green and white Porsche 911 RSR GT3. It's a solo entry. Hair Razor, who is Doug Barrow's teammate in Costa Racing by SDM AMG GT3. Superboy 580R, who is Iapez's teammate with the Winding Road Racing Corvette C7 GT3. Awesome Mankey Guy, who is driving Sharp Racing's Porsche 911 RSR GT3 in a very, very fun pink and red livery. X-Quinner is Awesome Mankey Guy's teammate in the second Sharp Racing Porsche 911 GT3. And last but most certainly not least, Petrolhead 0297 in the solo entry Jaguar F-Type. Qualifying, as we can see, has begun. The drivers are on their first timed lap, and we shall move to the front of the pack and see how the drivers are doing. Bofi Shidara is leading Doug Barrow into the final turn of the first lap. And here we will get our first splits. Doug Barrow 147.6, Bofu Shidara with a 148.4, Barr with a 147.8, Iapez 149.9. Next we have Mad Marshall with a 151.1, Mushalot 149.1, Hair Razor with a decent 148.5, Superboy with a 148.5 as well, not far in front of Hair Razor. And then crossing the line currently we have Awesome Mankey Guy with a 155.4. So currently we have Doug Barrow leading Bar 27 by 0.2 of a second. Bofu Shidara quite some ways back, over half a second, 0.6 down from Bar. Superboy is less than a second from Doug Barrow, but not far off that. And Hair Razor only 15 thousandths of a second behind with his first lap as well. Mushalot has some work to do to catch up in the Porsche. And Petrolhead crosses the line to put down his first timed lap as well, moving into third position behind Doug Barrow and Barr. Only 0.06 of a second in that behind Barr. Looks like we are immediately seeing our front runners for qualifying, with Doug Barrow, Barr and Petrolhead all putting in good laps. Doug Barrow and Barr straight into the pits, presumably to get some fresh tyres for their next lap, as Petrolhead goes purple in the first sector of the track, putting in a very respectable performance to try and take that provisional pole from Doug Barrow. NXGN, Burnt Fry and Superboy both dipping into the 147s, putting in some very good times. NXGN only 3 thousandths up on Barr. Petrolhead smack bang in the middle of Barr and Superboy, but still 4/10 up at the moment on Doug Barrow. He's putting in a very good lap with this Jaguar, and should things stand the way they are, he is on track to take provisional pole. And from the looks of how stable this car seems to be, I think he will do it. With Doug rounding the last, Petrol rounding the last corner. And he heads into the pits instead of putting in a lap. Interesting from Petrolhead, as he was up 4/10 on his time, potentially going above Doug Barrow. Doug getting a small penalty coming out of the final chicane of the track before the last hairpin, and removing it before the last corner so he can get a good run onto the main straight and set himself up for his next timed lap. We have a train of NXGN Burnt Fry, who is pulling over to let the other cars by. Very interesting. Doug on his flying lap now, with only 2 minutes left in the session. Things are still close. Doug Barrow still leading with his 147.6. NXGN, that was right, with the only 2/10 behind. Barr 3 thousandths behind Burnt Fry currently. Petrolhead still 600th behind Barr. Superboy only 3/10 off the lead with 55 hundredths 55 thousandths behind Petrolhead. Hair Raiser almost a half second behind Superboy, and almost 8 tenths off the lead. Bo Fushidara just inside 7th position, although not far off Hair Raiser, and going up 1/1000th of a second faster currently than the top time of qualifying, putting everything on the line as he steps it right out on the track limits. Almost a wheel in the dirt there. A wheel in the, sorry, not the dirt, the sand trap. A wheel in that sand trap will not be fun for any driver, let alone a incredibly torquey Corvette GT3. Those cars can really pack a punch in the lower RPM ranges, and as we see him cross the line, he may possibly go to the top. No, he lost a little bit of time, only managing a 1:48.3. Doug still holding the lead in this with only 30 seconds remaining on the clock, so this will be his final lap. Iapez setting a new fastest lap, 1:49.39. Mouchalot with a 1:48.7 to try and move up behind into the top 10 of the track, of the field. Next approaching the line, and this will be their final lap, Awesome Mankey Guy, currently 12th, and looks like they will unfortunately stay there. That's the end of the day for Mankey Guy. Next we have, who's that? Ex-Quinner, the teammate, just crossing the line now to stay 9th, but not by far, only 1.2 seconds behind Doug Barrow. Putting in a decent effort in that Porsche, but just not enough to try and push it to the front of the field for the start of the race. Coming through the final chicane, we do have Doug Barrow, led by Bo Fushidara, who is putting in what looks like a quick lap if my eyes are correct. I see he is on a good lap at the moment. This, we see Petrolhead not far off. Bo Fushidara just coming across the line now, and only still good enough for 6th place, just not enough to take it. Doug Barrow with a 1:47.4, going less than a 10th behind Petrolhead. Petrolhead just holding on for dear life here. Barr going up into 2nd position with a 1:47.395. Hair Raiser with a 1:48.1 goes faster, also does Mouchalot with a 1:48.2. Finally, we have Mad Marshall and Bert Fry, who just puts in a faster lap there to get into 4th position. So we do have at the front of the grid the F-Type solo entry of Petrolhead, to Bar 27 joining him on the front row, and we are in for a very interesting race ahead of us. Both British cars on the front row, with the Lexus and AMG of Bert Fry and Doug Barrow behind. We go to green. Oh, Superboy seems to be stuck on the grid. What bad luck for Superboy. First being stuck in the pits with the pit lane glitch, and now being stuck on the track. This is absolutely terrible for Superboy, who could have put in a good showing. Currently we have Petrolhead and Doug Barrow battling already on their first lap into turn 4, with Petrolhead just winning for the time being to hold first position over Doug. Petrolhead really trying to hold off that Mercedes of Doug, although Doug sends it up the inside. Petrolhead just into the sand, but keeps it steady, as Bo also gets a look in on this and says, hey, I want a piece of this action. Doug leading the race from Bo Fushidara. Bo just getting ahead there side by side down the straight into the third chicane of the track. Bo a little sideways heading into the chicane there. Things are getting very hairy. Oh, and Bo is just off the side and spins. Bo has spun off the track as Doug and Petrolhead take the top two positions. Bar third, Mouchelot in fourth place. Burnt Fry currently holding, has picked up very well with that Lexus. Although he just comes past Mouchelot for fourth position. Hair Raiser not far behind and catches Superboy sitting on the line. Somehow he is still... oh my god. Terrible for Hair Raiser as he has that disgusting luck. Petrol Boy and Doug Barrow do still lead this race, with Bar closing in that Aston Martin as well. Petrolhead has a lot of work to do if he wants to keep the lead of this race. Bert Fry and Iapez are not far behind, as Bert Fry does get a 1 second penalty coming through the second chicane. It is still side by side and nothing in it. Doug Barrow takes the lead from Petrolhead, with Bar trying to get a look in. It's a four-way battle for the lead currently, with the top four drivers only 4/10 between. Bert Fry still with that 0.8 second penalty that he will be trying to rid, as he does get half a second of that down into the third chicane of the track. Oh, and the race is being black flagged and restarted. More drama in the Tier 2 race. All drivers now leaving the track. Necessary to restart the race as a result of the Corvette of Superboy being stuck on the grid there. The field all back into the pits and the race will be restarted. Things cannot go right for these drivers. Everything on the line. We have a couple of drivers deciding to leave and rejoin the lobby to fix their connection issues. I don't even know what to say currently at the state of things. The race is all over the place. I'd say we could call this unprecedented. However, with 2020, unprecedented is being thrown around quite a lot. For the first race of a season, though, to have pit lane glitches, cars stuck on the grid, is, for me, unprecedented. It just does not happen that often. Maybe in other rounds of championships, but their first round. Not a good start for the Tier 2 SRS Motorsports Championship. A big shout out to the organisers, however, for keeping their heads and managing this fiasco to get everything underway as it should be properly. Superboy being advised to clear the cache to avoid more network issues, which he seems to be claiming that he has done now. As the drivers rejoin the track, the officials will reset the grid into the qualifying position so that we can go again. As the drivers take another opportunity to keep their tyres warm, their feet ready and their hands at the wheel. Nobody knows who quite has it in them to take out the first race of the year. I'll just take a moment to go over all the drivers' liveries. The pink and red Porsche of X-Quinna and also make a guy looking like very, very well designed liveries. Simple but effective is always best, as they say. Petrol head and that orange and blue Jaguar. Again, a very simple design but very striking. Somewhat reminds me of the old Gulf racing cars in the Le Mans series in the 70s and 80s. Doug Barrow's black and white Mercedes for Costa by STM, looking very, very delicious, especially with that red across the back joining the taillights together. I always have liked that idea, stemming from many race-inspired liveries of the past. Hair Razor, Doug Barrow's teammate, with the blue and white Mercedes, as he flashes Doug, who has stopped at the line. Yellow flags being shown at the start line due to Mad Marshall currently sitting the wrong way on the start-finish straight. We might just switch to some footage of the drivers Quinna and Petrolhead again at the start as the final race restarts. All drivers will have been set back to their original positions again. Hopefully this time we can get everything to schedule, to plan, and have a good race. Petrolhead again on pole position with Barr, Doug Barrow and Bert Fry all in for this. I think 2 or 3 drivers will be particularly pleased with that restart due to the incidents happening at the first attempt of the race. And as we go to green and Petrolhead gets off the line again, Superboy is currently not stuck on the grid, so he is going to have a much better race now that he can actually move his vehicle. And Petrolhead is already under pressure again from Doug and Barr as they enter the first corner. Cars being punted everywhere, Doug Barrow just being pushed ahead of Petrolhead. We will be able to see now, didn't get any damage luckily from that rear punt thanks to the turn 1 shenanigans at Monza that always happens. Doug and Petrolhead side by side leading into turn 4, the second chicane of the track, with Doug getting very sideways across the front of Petrolhead, causing Petrolhead to also lose a lot of time as Barr and Hair Razor go by. Doug's mistake has cost Petrolhead a lot of time and position, but I suspect he will not stay there very long. He will fight with everything he's got to get back up there. He has proven his pace in that Jaguar, even in that 10-minute qualifying session and the previous race attempt. Barr and Hair Razor closing in with the slipstream of the AMG as Barr goes down the inside of Doug. Both of these drivers are giving everything they've got as Hair Razor in the second Costa Racing by STM AMG is overtaken by Petrolhead already the first lap, half a lap later, and Petrolhead is pushing again to get back to the lead. That guy is a man on a mission to get back what was stolen from him rather. Barr with a 0.4 second penalty, trying to rid that. I believe that was from the third chicane of the track, which I am trying to keep. There's so much going on here, it's hard to keep track of. Barr just leading Doug Barrow, overtaking in the first corner with Petrolhead right in there as well. Doug is sideways again, as is Barr. Hair Raiser just gets it done again as Petrolhead into the sand trap, loses a little bit of time. 3 cars right at the front as we may go 3 wide into the second chicane again. Both Costa Racing SDM cars currently first and second, with Barr over into the sand trap doing everything he can to keep that car stable. Petrolhead back into third position, trying his very best to catch back up to the 2 AMG GT3s. It's now pure V8 power as the AMGs and the Jaguar both race up the back straight of Monza, underneath the tunnel of the old oval circuit. That was a beautiful circuit, beautiful track rather. Unfortunate that it's no longer used in today's racing, but it was very treacherous for the drivers of old. Doug Barrow less than half a second ahead of his teammate as they approach the final corner of lap 2 in this race. Petrolhead not far behind, and I believe not intending on letting these 2 run away from him. We will slowly move down the field now as the pack has settled slightly. Petrolhead just over a second behind Hair Raiser with a beautiful run as Doug Barrow and Hair Raiser are going side by side almost into turn 1. Down to Barr as Mouchelot also comes around. Bert Fry in 6th position with Superboy trying his very hardest to stay on. Quina, Iapez and Bo Fushidara coming through to 10th place. Mankey Guy outbrakes himself, as does Mad Marshall, who gets reset back to the start of the chicane. That is notoriously difficult to prevent once you do miss your braking point. Back up to the front, and Doug Barrow is leading, now has a almost 1 second gap ahead of his teammate, who will struggle with the pressure from Petrolhead, I believe. Petrolhead with another penalty will be looking to get rid of that into the third chicane. Very possible, we've seen it done so far, to remove that from themselves under brakes. As does he almost get that done? 0.1 left. Just putting it into the sand as he's giving everything he's got to try and stay on the back of the AMG GT3 of Hair Raiser. All of these guys giving everything they've got to try and keep their cars in good shape at the start of this race. Barr and Mouchelot rounding out the top 5. Barr also only a second off the top 3 guys. Mouchelot with Bert Fry right on his rear bumper in that Lexus on the Porsche. Sends it down the inside, but the Porsche is better under the brakes. Just gets it on the apex very well with a good exit. Does have that 0.4 second penalty that he will want to remove shortly, so he may lose that ground that he does have to Bert Fry very shortly. Bert Fry pressuring the back of that Porsche leading into turn 4 as he goes up the inside again, just getting in front as they reach the braking point. Will Mouchelot be able to get the switch back? No, doesn't quite get it done. Bert Fry has moved up quite steadily into 5th position now. As we approach the right-hander leading towards the bridge. Superboy in shot here now in 7th position, and seems to be doing a very good job of trying to catch the leaders. Quinner and Bo Fushidara both in a little battle, with Iapez not far behind either in that yellow Corvette, as Manky Guy seems to have lost a little bit of position himself, and Marshall not far behind in that grey and yellow Lexus. We switch back to Doug as he starts the 5th lap of the race. His teammate Hairraiser 1.4 seconds behind in 2nd position. Petrolhead and Bar both with penalties crossing on the 5th lap of the race, side by side into turn 1. This is going to be a little hairy between the Aston and the Jaguar. Bar just catching the... I can't remember for the life of me what those are called. I'll call it the barriers. My mind finally waking up. Petrolhead just ahead of Bar, leading into turn 4. As Bert Fry 3 seconds behind, with Mouchelot just on his tail still. Bert Fry not managing to shake that Porsche into the 5th lap of the race. Superboy doing a very steady job in that Corvette, but is losing time down to those leaders. Quinner just being overtaken by Bo Fushidara on the right-hander. Bo moving ahead into 8th place with that black Corvette. Iapez in 10th position, struggling to keep pace with the guys ahead of him, as Manky Guy and Marshall having a little battle at the back of the pack for 11th position. It's always great to see not just the front runners but the back markers also having a good battle. Nobody wants to be on their own at the back of the pack, and luckily they've got a buddy. We switch back and Doug Burrows still leading the race with the fastest lap of the race, a 1:47.4. That's a very quick time from that Mercedes AMG. Time will tell if he can best that again. However, I think he can, due to still having 55% of fuel in that tank. Hairraiser 2 seconds behind as Petrolhead outbraked himself, and Bar manages to get ahead, leading out of the turn. Bert Fry closing into 2 seconds of Bar and Petrolhead, as he tries to reel them in and challenge for a podium position as it stands. Mouchelot, a second and a half behind, has lost the back of that Lexus and the slipstream that it gives off with that big rear end. Superboy less than 2 seconds behind Mouchelot, still losing ground to the leaders, but seems to be catching the rear end of the Porsche. Bo Fushidara leading from Quinner in 9th position. Iapez struggling still in that Corvette, but doing a great job of keeping it on the track, as Mad Marshall has moved up into 11th, and Manky Guy 5 seconds behind in the Porsche. Leading onto the final straight, Doug Barrows still leading the race with 1.8 second gap to his teammate. These Costa Racing by SDM AMGs are looking very good for this event. Bar just over 5 seconds behind the leaders as they cross the line, starting the 7th lap. Petrolhead trying to get that position back from Bar. Seems to be the most fought after position, the 3rd place at the moment, with Bar braking to let Petrolhead swing around the outside, as it seems Bert Fry absolutely outbraked himself into the first turn. Mouchelot gets a free pass up into 5th again. He'll be thanking his lucky stars for that, as he is now 1 second ahead of Bert Fry. Bert Fry will have the slipstream, however, if he can keep pace with the Porsche through these curves of the 2nd chicane of the track. Superboy now only 1 second off the back of Bert Fry, and doing a very good job. Has Haver picked up a small penalty, trying to get rid of it, which he will do under brakes leading into the third chicane. 1.5 seconds off the back of Bernd Fry, who has caught the back of Mouchelot with not much between them, leading into the left-hander at the third chicane. Will he brake or send it down the inside? He does keep it behind. We will go on board now, if we can. Don't seem to be able to actually change views in these cars. For some reason it will not let me, which is frustrating. Might have to switch out of spectating and back in to see if we can. There we go. Must have had a little glitch with the console. Mouchelot did get overtaken by Bernd Fry, but will challenge for it again into the first corner of the race, of the track, I'm sorry. Does get it done, just puts it on the apex and manages to hold the position. These guys are having a very good battle. Petrolhead and Barr again going at it. Petrolhead just holding off Barr as he squeezes him onto the sand trap on the outside of the track. Just manages to hold his composure and keep it together. Petrolhead going wide onto the sand himself through the chicane, losing quite a bit of speed into the tight right-hander. Barr right on the back of that Jaguar in his Aston Martin and wanting that third position back again. I think we're going to see a lot of fight contested between these two guys as the race progresses. We will move back up to Doug Barrow and Hair Raiser in a minute. However, we cannot let our eyes off this battle between Petrolhead and Barr. Petrolhead getting it sideways coming through the chicane. Barr giving him a little tap on the exit to say, hey, don't muck around, I want that position. As we start the 9th lap of the race, we will go onto an onboard shot with Doug Barrow to take you through a lap of the race unfiltered. Special thanks to Doug as we round to start the 10th lap of the race. Did do a solid job, however did lose a little bit of time, picking up a 1 second penalty as Hair Raiser, his teammate, closes in a slight bit. Hair Raiser now less than a second off the back of that AMG and will do everything you can to catch back up to his teammate. They may be teammates, but at the end of the day they are still two drivers in race cars, and at the end of the day a race car driver wants to win. I think there will be some level of respect between the two teammates. But we may see another battle for the lead yet. We will slowly move down the field. Both of the drivers have picked up a 5-second gap to the third place Petrolhead, with Petrolhead struggling to get away from Bar. Bar just doing enough to stay in the slipstream of that Jaguar. However, we will see if he can do that leading out of the corner. Petrolhead just got a good enough exit to put a little bit more time between them, but Bar does seem to have slightly better top end. As they reach the braking point, Petrolhead has lost most of the penalty that he did have. Putting a little bit more ground on Bar, seems to maybe just be doing enough to claim that third position as his own for the time being. Burnt Fry in 5th position again, doing his very best to catch back up to Bar and Petrolhead. Moving down into 6th position, we have Bo Fushidara in that gorgeous black Corvette C7, just half a second ahead of Mouchelot in that green and white Porsche. The Porsche just sticking to the back of that Corvette and using everything that big rear end has got to slip behind and catch up. Moving within 0.2 of a second into the braking zone, he is going to just send it down the inside of Bo. Says, hey, I am here and I am here to play. Bo says, I don't think so, and pushes him back, keeping the position out of turn 2 and into the long sweeping right-hander of turn 3 at Monza. Moving down for the moment to 8th position with Quinner in the other pink Porsche. 40 seconds now behind the dealer. Behind the leader, my apologies, of the race. Superboy 15 seconds behind Quinner, and I think just came out of the pits, which explains his sudden loss of time. Yes, he did just have a pit stop. Iapez 4 seconds behind Superboy, rounding out the top 10 with Mad Marshall in 11th, trying to stay on par with that Lexus. And last but not least, the second Porsche, Awesome Manky Guy. As the leaders pit on lap 11, we see Petrolhead and Bar also pitting. The Mercedes both looking to have very good fuel. We did just receive word from the Tier 1 drivers that T5 Black, Jakai and Palmer are the top 3 of that race, with Racete, Tees, Year, Splash and Cabales rounding out the top 8. With 22 minutes to go in that race. As the drivers exit the pits to start the next section of their race on fresh tyres and full fuel again. Moving down, we have Mouchelot 1.5 seconds behind Bo. Burnt Fry just sticking to the back of that Porsche, trying to get enough onto that to tuck into the slipstream of the Porsche. Superboy and Iapez leading through the first and second corners as Iapez gets a little bit sideways on the exit. Sorry, Quinner getting a little bit sideways, not Iapez. Mad Marshall coming through in 11th with Manky Guy rounding up the back of the field in the second pink Porsche. Up to the lead, and Doug Barrow still in the lead with just under a second ahead of his teammate. Seems to be now towing his teammate along, keeping him at arm's length, but enough to propel this team to a potential 1-2 victory. It is too early to say, but from the pace and consistency these guys are showing, I would not bet against that being the result, whether it be Doug from Hairraiser or Hairraiser from Doug Barrow. And it seems Bar and Petrolhead are at it again, leading on to lap 13. That third position is being contested more than a piece of steak in a dog kennel. Bar and Petrolhead going at it in those British V8 powered machines. I think Bar has the perfect livery for this job, with that bull absolutely raging on the back of the Jaguar. It's not often we get two beasts like this, a big cat and the big, well, just bull. Can't really say it's anything else. They are 15 seconds, however, ahead of Bo Fushidara. That means that Burnt Fry either must have made a mistake or pitted again, as he is downing. Oh, and Burnt Fry makes another mistake. Burnt Fry does seem to have good pace, but just not the consistency required to carry out a strong race here at Monza. It is a shame, because he is showing some really good pace in that Lexus, as he is now 40 seconds behind the leaders and quite a fair way from where he was not 2 laps ago. Moving back up to the front of the field, Doug Barrow and Hairraiser now in a tight battle for the lead. As predicted, Hairraiser now a tenth of a second behind and seems to be pushing his teammate ahead, not wanting to pull out and overtake until they do in the braking zone. Hairraiser stays behind his teammate, not wanting to upset the balance of either of those cars and cause anything to happen. Some great teamwork there from the two SDM Costa Racing AMGs. Really great sportsmanship between these two to keep them in the lead of this race. As they approach the last car on the track, we have the Porsche of Awesome Mankey Guy trying to stay ahead, although I think the Mercedes-Benz will just reel that Porsche in, as he's being flashed by the leaders, almost causing a collision with both AMG drivers trying to get past the Porsche. Not very great spatial awareness from the Porsche, doing a very bad job of letting these guys by and almost ruining their races. Both Doug Barrow and Hairraiser still squirrely coming through the third chicane of the race, trying to get their composure back together after that tangle with the Porsche. They have come out of it alive though, as Petrolhead and Bar are approaching. Burnt Fry either has disconnected or given up from the race as he leaves the lobby. Unfortunate for the orange Lexus driver, who had been showing some really good pace. Doug Barrow leading his teammate across the line as they start lap 15. Hairraiser again staying out of the slipstream enough, but under brakes just inside his teammate. Trying not to push each other off though. The ghosting of Gran Turismo Sport just saving the two of them from a very nasty accident. Petrolhead and Bar will be appreciating this little battle as they are trying to close the gap on the leaders of this race. Petrolhead 3 seconds behind now, with Bar just on his tail. I think it's a bit too soon to say that Petrolhead is out of the contention for the lead, as anything can happen with these two first drivers. If Petrolhead can just get it together with this Jaguar he can potentially push to get back in the mix of things. I'm not sure, but it may seem that both of these drivers are going to push each other to the front of the field instead of fighting, which would be a much more advantageous thing to do. They are slowly starting to reel in the leaders, losing a little bit of time. However, as I say that, the commentators curse biting the drivers. And we hear tyre squeals from Doug and Hairraiser, who seem to be not wanting to be much teammates anymore, fighting as they approach the timing line. Hairraiser now leading the race from Doug Barrow, as Doug goes back down the inside of his teammate again to take the control of the lead of this race. Petrolhead and Barr now 2.4 seconds behind as a result of the clashing between these two drivers. I think Petrolhead will be thanking his lucky stars for this little battle, although Barr is not making it easy for him to catch up. I don't think there is much teamwork going on between these two drivers as they both battle for position. Petrolhead doing his utmost best to firstly stay in third position at the moment and try to catch the leaders. He is doing a decent job of that, losing a little bit of time on the exit, but still just getting to a good position and possibly within striking distance. 2.3 seconds behind the leaders as Barr gives him a little push down this straightaway. Leading into the chicane, 2.2 seconds separate the second placed AMG of Hairraiser and the third placed Jaguar of Petrolhead. Barr 3/10 behind, not enough to give Petrolhead another push along the straightaway, but certainly close enough to make something happen when the time is right. Now less than 2.2 seconds, 2.1, and dropping again as the Jaguar seems to be a little bit faster through that final turn than the AMGs. Barr again right on the back of that Jaguar, and under the brakes they all approach the first and second corners as the AMGs seem to finally have decided who's going to lead this race, potentially trying to get away, although Petrolhead has closed that gap down to Hairraiser to less than 2 seconds. I think Barr has realised Petrolhead is the best chance of him getting into the mix for a potential podium, as Doug Barrow goes wide into the exiting the second chicane of the track. Both of these SDM Costa drivers doing their very best to stay in control, but being reeled in slowly by Petrolhead's Jaguar and Barr in that dark Aston Martin. We will shift the focus back to the AMGs at the moment as Doug is 3/10 up on his teammate, 1.8 seconds ahead still of Petrolhead, but that is subject to change in the very near future if things don't start to change between these two AMG drivers. With a 0.7 penalty at the moment, Hairraiser trying to remove that under braking zones, pushing everything he can onto his teammate, losing a decent bit of time on the apex, but getting it back seems to have paid off for him as he does extend that again over 2 seconds, and in doing so sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:47.2. I don't know how close that is, if there was any track cuts there with that penalty being on his car, but at the moment we have to count it as valid. Doug Barrow 4/10 ahead of the AMG SDM Costa Racing AMGs. God, that's a mouthful. Petrolhead now 2.4 seconds behind, with Bar close in tow. Bar 5/10 behind, with slightly worse tyres than Petrolhead's Jaguar, who seems to be managing them a bit better than Bar is, potentially due to the fact that Petrolhead is able to drive as he sees fit, whereas Bar is trying to hang on to the back. Oh, and as I say that, Petrolhead does get wide on the exit of the turn, losing that position to Bar, who does move up into a provisional podium place once again in this race. As I stated at the start of the stream, just because this is the second tier does not mean that there is not an equal share of excitement with the first tier of the SRS Motorsports League Round 1. Doug Barrow and Hairraiser have extended that lead over Bar and Petrolhead to a 3-second gap currently, with the slight slide of Petrolhead on that exit. All drivers still putting in very quick laps. Bar with a 1:47.3 a few laps ago, not far off Hairraiser. All drivers putting in very, very quick laps. Whilst we have a minute, we will just move to the timing and check out who has pace at the moment, who has the faster laps of the track. We have Hairraiser with the 1:47.5 on the last lap, Doug Barrow with the 1:47.6. The fastest laps, however, is what we want to see. 1:47.2 from Hairraiser, the best lap of Doug Barrow at 1:47.4, 1:47.3 and 1:47.3 from both Bar and Petrolhead, with only 1/100th of a second between them. A 1:47.274 from Bo Fushidara, who is 1/1000th of a second slower than Hairraiser with his fastest lap. None of the other drivers on the track are currently in the 1:47s, with just those top 5 doing it. We do move back to the action here with the SDM AMGs. Costa Racing by SDM AMGs, should I say. Both of these drivers trying to keep control of this race with a 3-second gap, 3/10 of a second gap between them. Extending that lead over Bar 27 to 2.4 seconds. I keep getting the words mixed up over my tongue at the moment. We have passed the 30-minute mark. With all this action, I have not been able to keep track of the time. We are now 25 minutes from the end of the race, with the action showing no signs of slowing down between any of these drivers currently on track. Bar has closed the gap to Hairraiser again to under 2 seconds, as he tries to find a way back into contention for the lead of this race. Superboy down in 7th place, entering the pits with only 4% of the fuel tank left in his Corvette. Bar has made a slight mistake, however, in the chicane, and has lost that time he had gained on Hairraiser, with that gap extending back to 2.5 seconds. Doug Barrow only leading Hairraiser by a hair razor itself. Both drivers pushing the needle edge of these cars, not content with just a 1-2 finish, but they want to give it everything they've got as they both go wide on the second last corner of the track. There is no love lost between these two drivers, as Hairraiser almost sends it down the inside of his teammate once again. Both drivers right onto the green, almost the AstroTurf of the final corner, rounding onto the 21st lap of the race. Things are still hot and spicy with this race as it stands. Doug Barrow and Hairraiser side by side leading into the first corner of the 21st lap of the first round of the SRS Motorsports Championship Tier 2. Barr and Petrolhead back within 2 seconds of Hairraiser. It seems that these drivers are blow for blows with these laps. Hairraiser and Doug Barrow pulling away and then being closed back down by 3rd and 4th position. It would be safe to say that if Barr and Petrolhead were a little bit closer, as they're almost doing with a 1.5 second gap, that this would be an even tighter race as Hairraiser gets just a little bit too wide on the exit of the first right-hander. Doug Barrow losing a lot of time on the exit has lost down to 4th position as Barr and Petrolhead move into the top 3 positions of the race onto the provisional podium. Doug Barrow with a massive mistake has cost him and his team a formation finish, it seems, with 22 minutes remaining on the clock. He does have the pace, however, to bring it back. I'm expecting him to pull into the pits shortly, as he probably will not want to drive on these tyres for much longer. Hairraiser now coming around to the 22nd lap. He looks like he will stay out. Barr does, however, enter the pits as Petrolhead goes past in 2nd position of the race. Doug Barrow staying out to try and bring something back, maybe wanting to pit at the end of this lap, giving it an even 20-minute stint for those final tyres. Barr will be leaving those pits shortly and hopefully just ahead of Mouchelot. However, he will need some pace to stay ahead. I think he will just have it and not get caught up by Mouchelot and Bo Fushidara approaching from behind. Hairraiser with a 2.2 second gap to Petrolhead. However, Petrolhead does have a slightly better set of tyres. Whether that will count for much, we will see shortly. 2.4 seconds separating the provisional first 2 drivers of the race. The Jaguar not far out of sight on the rear of that AMG. Petrolhead just pushing a little bit harder around that turn and closing that gap slightly to 2.2 seconds, coming down the straightaway underneath the bridge of the old circuit. Hairraiser into the final chicane of the lap, followed by Petrolhead closing in even more down to 1.8 seconds. Not quite pushing just as hard on the exit though, being extended yet again almost to that 2-second mark. We see Doug Barrow in the distance, only 4 seconds behind Petrolhead, and as you can see, very much pushing that Mercedes to try and get back in with the action. Petrolhead really wide on the final turn as both of the front runners of the race pull into the pits. Doug Barrow will follow them in as well. We will see where this puts Barr as he approaches the final turn of his 22nd lap of the race. This will put him right in the mix as he has had fresh tyres for this lap. Whether that will show for much is going to show very shortly, as we will go on board with him to see where he comes out with these other drivers. We see the drivers just coming out now with Hairraiser ahead, Petrolhead a 1/10 of a second behind. He will get the extra speed coming down and will be within 1 second, it looks like, of Hairraiser. Coming out of the chicane on equal speed, Hairraiser less than a second ahead of Barr. Barr with now warm tyres, as Hairraiser will have to spend this lap slightly warming the tyres up. If Barr can keep his composure, he will have a very good chance at challenging for the lead by the end of this lap. Petrolhead just coming out 1.5 seconds ahead of Bo Fushidara. Doug Barrow 1 second behind Bo, potentially just wide on the second chicane of the track, trying to stick to the back of Bo and use that toe from the Corvette to his advantage. Maybe pushing it slightly too much with these slightly colder tyres than what he was just driving on mere minutes ago. Moving back down the line quickly, we have Mouchelot holding 6th position, with Superboy still in 7th, doing his best to try and keep that Corvette planted. Ex-Quinner 4.5 seconds behind Superboy in the pink Porsche, with Ayapez in the yellow Corvette in 9th, and Mad Marshall leading the 10th position with that Lexus. Also Manky Guy in that 2nd Porsche, not far. Who is that just ahead? Has he been lapped again? That is the 7th place Superboy, it seems, who is just leading him. Back to the start of the race, and Hair Raiser now 1 second clear of Bar. He has done very well to keep that Mercedes-Benz ahead of Bar and extending that a little bit on the first corner. However, did get a bad run off the exit. Bar closing that gap back down again. Bar 1 second off the lead and only 1.7 seconds ahead of Petrolhead. The end of this race is shaping up to be a nail-biter. You could put bets on either of these 3 drivers, Hair Raiser, Bar or Petrolhead, winning this race, but still don't discount Doug Barrow, who is currently in provisional 5th, with Bo Fushidara needing to pit soon. Doug Barrow has a good chance at something. Bo Fushidara 2.5 seconds behind Petrolhead, with Doug right on his bumper, not wanting to be held up by the Corvette as he pushes him wide on the exit. The Corvette all over the place. Doug Barrow being pushed back himself onto the grass and losing a lot of time to Petrolhead. 3.5 seconds behind now, and 6.5 seconds behind his teammate leading the race, Hair Raiser. Petrolhead now 2 seconds behind Bar, has lost a little bit of time as Bar is still on the back end of that Mercedes and within slipstream distance now. If he can keep that thing in the green zone of the track, meaning of course the grip, he will be able to use that slipstream to tuck back up behind the AMG and attempt to catch up and challenge for the lead. We are now approaching the 45-minute mark of the race. Hair Raiser leading still 1.1 seconds here from Bar, with what seems to be a bad exit on the first chicane. Bar now only 0.8 of a second behind. Petrolhead has done very well, seems, through that first chicane as well on the 25th lap of round 1, with a 1.7 gap to Bar. Doug Barrow 4 seconds behind Petrolhead now, and with a lot of work to do in the final 15 minutes. However, Petrolhead does get it wide on the second chicane of Monza, putting it into the grass and losing time to Doug Barrow and time off Bar. Bar 7/10 behind Hair Raiser as he approaches the straightaway and the tunnel of the old circuit. He is only 7/10 of a second behind Hair Raiser. He has done very well now to keep that Aston Martin under control and is challenging for the lead of this race. Only half a second between him and Hair Raiser. 2 seconds behind though, and watching keenly will be Petrolhead, who knows that these two will be battling very shortly and losing a lot of time to each other, which will allow Petrolhead to catch up, and potentially Doug Barrow as well, still in the mix for this. Hair Raiser now only 4/10 ahead of Bar as they come around the final corner. Bar with a really good run off the exit, right on the back end of this AMG, and will be challenging once again about 20 odd laps later for the lead of the race as he comes right up to the rear end of the Mercedes into turn 1. Will he send it down the outside? Just breaks enough, takes the safe route, keeps it well under control. Little squirrel in the exit, but still doing a very good job to stay on the back end of the AMG, using the slipstream to his advantage, trying to unsettle the rear of that AMG with the big Aston Martin that he is piloting. Petrolhead now 1.6 seconds behind them both, and closing in very fast with a good run through, putting it into the sand but still managing to close the gap even more, down to 1 second. Bar going a little wide on the right-hander of the track as they approach again the straightaway down to the tunnel of the old circuit. Petrolhead 1 second behind Bar, who is half a second behind Hairraiser. The end of this race is starting to look very tasty indeed. Hairraiser coming through the final chicane of this race. Sorry, of this lap, should I say, not the race. We've still got 12.5 minutes to go. Bar again right on the back of that AMG, and probably if he can keep it settled through this and get a good exit, he can challenge very well for the lead of this race yet again, as Hairraiser understeers into the corner. Bar is all over the back of that AMG. Bar just managing to try and pull out now with Hairraiser's AMG. There is 2/10 in it. Hairraiser not far ahead. Petrolhead 1.3 seconds behind Bar, and doing everything he can to catch back up, as the Lexus of Mad Marshall does a very, very good job to stay out of the way of these top drivers and trying to not to hold them up. Props to the sportsmanship of Mad Marshall to stay out of the way for these guys, battling for the lead of a very exciting race that has not disappointed after the initial technical difficulties that we did have. Hairraiser only 3/10 ahead right over the curbs as he goes wide on the exit, giving Bar an excellent opportunity down the inside of the right-hander. They almost go side by side. I think Bar just touched the inside but did not get a penalty, any damage, luckily, to the front right of that Aston Martin. Petrolhead only 7/10 of a second behind Bar, and again within slipstream distance. The top three of this race has just heated up to a very hot temperature. Someone please enter the kitchen with a fire extinguisher and turn down the heat. I don't think these drivers can take much more of this. Luckily, there is just over 10 minutes remaining, which should be about 5 or 6 laps. Petrolhead going really wide on the exit of the chicane, but will still have the slipstream to stay behind the rear end of Bar. Doug Barrow is, however, 4 seconds behind Petrolhead. I don't think he will have enough to catch up. Petrolhead now 1 second behind Bar, just falling out of that slipstream range, unfortunately, but Hairraiser and Bar will still be battling as they are less than 1/10 of a second apart. Bar right on the rear end of that AMG, most likely wanting to stay behind. I'm going to predict maybe for fuel. Oh, and Hairraiser has outbraked himself into the first turn, sending Bar slightly wide, having to brake. This puts Petrolhead back in the mix for the race, as all of them are approaching the third turn of the track with only half a second between them. Both of them have now gifted Petrolhead another shot at winning this race. Hairraiser and Bar almost going side by side as the three of them approach the back runners again. All three through the second chicane without too much dramas. Through the first right-hander at the back of the track, Bar is half a second clear of Hairraiser, however, only a second off the back end, gives a tap to Hairraiser, who just got it inside. Petrolhead around the outside of Bar though, and into the lead of the race, third to first in one corner. What a move from Petrolhead to take control of the race yet again. Really going from first in qualifying to first again, and the Porsche just getting in the way at the third chicane of the course. Petrolhead does have a 1 second penalty that he will really want to get rid of by the time this race ends in 9 minutes time. Hairraiser again getting past, with Bar pushing Petrolhead back down to third to first to third in one lap. Would you believe it? Petrolhead is having a hell of a race out here with this Jaguar. It's a close battle between the AMG, the Aston Martin and the Jaguar as they cross the line for the 29th lap with only 1/10 of a second between them. We are almost 3 wide going into the first turn. Petrolhead right on the back of that AMG. This could get really ugly very quickly. All the drivers, however, are being very cautious, knowing what's at stake at the end of this race. 8 minutes to go. Everything on the line. All three drivers with every chance of winning the race. Anything could happen between them. Petrolhead currently again in the lead of this race, with Bar and Hairraiser close in tow as they both flank from the outside. Petrolhead managing to stay ahead through the second chicane. Hairraiser passing Bar again for second position. Petrolhead managing to hold on as Hairraiser will be trying to get back in control of the race to take first. 3 tenths separate Petrolhead and Hairraiser in second position, going up to 4. Petrolhead having a very good exit on the turn as Doug Barrow sends it wide on the exit. Seems like he was just catching back up to them, trying to get in within touching distance, but has lost that ground. Hairraiser, Petrolhead and Bar still in the mix. Nothing between them, less than a second between first and third. All three drivers through the third chicane of the 29th lap, round 1 of the second tier of the SRS Motorsports League. I am starting to run out of words to describe the battle between these three drivers. I don't even know what to say. The Jaguar leading the AMG across the line for the 30th lap with just under 7 minutes remaining in the race. Bar still in third position, only within touching distance as Hairraiser pulls alongside Petrolhead on the outside of the first turn, braking, but Petrolhead brakes just enough, outbrakes himself very much, luckily not to get reset at the start of that chicane with that manoeuvre to try and stay in the lead of the race. He does, however, lose the ground to Hairraiser and potentially now Bar, who is on the outside of him in the third turn. Leading to the second chicane, Bar, I presume, will try and push it. No, he does stay behind, knowing it's a risky move to try and push it into that chicane. Hairraiser leading from Petrolhead in second position, Bar just behind in third, with everything on the line here. All three drivers knowing very much what's at stake, wanting to push it as hard as they can for the lead, but also not wanting to ruin the race for themselves or for one of the other drivers and end up getting themselves a potential penalty. There's not much you can really say to describe the action that is happening right in front of you as Bar and Petrolhead again side by side down into the chicane. They do make contact. Bar and Petrolhead losing quite a bit of time. Hairraiser has been gifted some time to try and get away. He has half a second ahead of Bar, however the slipstream will still help the two drivers in second and third. As long as they manage to keep within a second of each other, they will stay in contention for this race win. We will now check all the tyres of the drivers. Hairraiser with very good tyre consumption, Bar with slightly less grip levels, Petrolhead also on a very good tyre as well. Bar seems to be the driver with the most at stake with his tyres as we have reached the 5-minute mark left in the race. All drivers seem to be realising how close this can be, giving each other even more space and consideration through the first chicane of the 31st lap of Monza round 1. Petrolhead going around trying to get an opening past Bar once again to challenge for the lead of this race. All drivers are pushing that hard, there's nothing between them, and in all of this frenzy I just noticed Bo Fushidara has currently the fastest lap of the race with a 1:47 double 1:4. A very, very solid lap from Bo. Just happened 2 laps ago, trying to push back into a good position. Done very well to move into 5th position in the race and challenge with the fastest lap. Hairraiser, Bar and Petrolhead still in first, second and third, pushing with under 4 minutes now as we approach the tunnel. Left-hander with the chicane coming down to the back straight of Monza, and Hairraiser goes really wide on the exit of the chicane, giving Bar a very good run, who will take the outside line, just backs off again. All three drivers again very much in the mix, making little mistakes but still all within touching distance as Petrolhead pushes Bar around the inside of Hairraiser. Hairraiser dropping down. All the drivers are all over the place trying their very best to stay ahead of each other as they go in a line down the center of the racetrack. Coming out, we do have almost a 3 wide into turn 1. That could have gotten hairy. We do have Petrolhead down the inside of Bar, sending him slightly wide. Bar onto the sand. Petrolhead with almost a 1 second gap to Bar now, with only 2 laps remaining this lap and the next. It looks like this will be a very intense race. Bar and Hairraiser in second and third position, doing their very best to try and stay with Petrolhead now with that contact between them at turn 1. Petrolhead, as we know, does have the pace to win this race. He did put it on pole, has done a very good job to come back from third, pushing with Bar in fourth to catch back up to Doug Barrow and Hairraiser. Doug Barrow did have that little incident quite a few laps ago on this corner that we're seeing right now. However, he is in the background there doing his best to try and catch up. If Petrolhead, Bar and Hairraiser have a little issue, we may see Doug Barrow just get a chance at a podium. With the amount of racing we're seeing between these three guys at the front here, anything can happen, and Doug Barrow very much will know that he potentially still has a podium on his hands. Petrolhead has, however, pushed out a 1.3 second gap to Bar. Bar holding on just with Hairraiser in third place, only 1/10 as they go side by side into the final turn of lap 32. Bar on the inside, Hairraiser on the outside, and that AMG doing his best to hold on with the grip that he's got in that car. He does have that slight grip advantage over Bar as he goes into second position, crossing the line in the 33rd, and now that this will be the final lap of the race, I believe. Yes, there will be no more laps. This will be the final lap of the race. Petrolhead with a very good exit actually has lost a lot of time to Bar and Hairraiser. We did just see Doug Barrow spin out on the entry as well, braking himself. Petrolhead only 1.3 seconds ahead of Bar, 1/10 of a second ahead of Hairraiser, who sends it back down the inside on the second chicane to take second position again. Both these drivers giving everything they've got to try and take that silver place for this round 1 of SRS Motorsports Tier 2 League. Bar really wide on the outside of the right-hander and is going to completely lose it, has spun out completely. Hairraiser will take second position. Bar has spun. Will he be able to get it back in time with Doug Barrow trying to catch up behind? Will Doug Barrow have enough? I don't think so. Doug Barrow will not be close enough, having spun himself at the start of this lap. Hairraiser is only half a second behind Petrolhead. Does the V8 of that AMG have enough? He did, however, pick up a big 5/10 penalty approaching the last corner of the race. Petrolhead has a 6/10 gap. I don't think he's going to give it up now. Hairraiser with a half-second penalty. Petrolhead 1 second ahead, will cross the line for the lead and the win in this race. Very good job to Petrolhead, who does claim victory in the maiden race of Tier 2 of the SRS Motorsports League race. Bar will come around in third position after a very hard-fought race to claim the third step on the podium. Doug Barrow missing out, unfortunately. Had he not spun out on that first corner of the last lap, he would have had that podium to make it an SDM Costa Racing 2-3 finish, but it was not to be. Bo Fishidara does very well, only a second and a half behind Doug, to bring it home in fifth position with the fastest lap of the race. No doubt that Corvette did have some serious pace behind it, as we can see. Mouchelot has crossed the line in sixth position. We did see the eighth place car of Ex-Quina, who crossed the line just before the leaders. Iapez in 9th position. Awesome Mankey Guy, who will take 11th. Mad Marshall in 10th, and we'll go back up to Superboy, who is rounding the final corner, the last car on the lap to cross the line And that will be the results for the race. Petrolhead first, Hair Raider second, and Bar third. Here is your podium drivers of the round 1 tier 2 race of the SRS Motorsports League. We will be having some interviews for the first 3 drivers of this race. I will now just invite all 3 of them in here so we can have a quick chat to them after that race. Just hold on with me a second while we get this organised. What an incredible end to the race to show you guys. I don't quite have them on my friends list. I won't be able to invite them to this. I might have to, if I can ask the organisers listening in to organise a party with the 3 winners, we can then get a good interview with the drivers, because I do not have all of them on my friends list to invite them in here for a chat. When possible, I do request a party invite from the organisers with the top 3 finishers. What an incredible race for the winner of the first round. Petrolhead just bringing it home with the gold trophy. Hair Raider coming home in second, and Bar across the line for the 3rd position. We're just waiting on that at the moment. There is Bar sending me friend request, which I can, of course, accept and get sorted into here. Hello boys, how are we doing this afternoon? What an absolute stun of a race as we wait for the other drivers who cross the line for the podium. Not a problem.
Don't know where he is. Oh, here he is, Petrol.
Oh, his petrol had already turned off the console.
I've just sent him an invite.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, what a stunning race that was.
Oh, really? Me, yeah. Have I got the setting not connected right? Thank you for letting me know. Do you have... Yeah, I've got share party audio. Do you have your voice allowed to be shared? Alright. Yeah, no, I've got it all set up to share everything. Um,
Whoa. Testing.
Hopefully it comes through. There's a little bit of a delay between us.
I hear myself now.
Yep, we got it. Awesome.
Very good.
Cool.
Perfect. So we're just waiting on...
Yeah, I don't think Petrol is joining.
I don't think Petrol has joined in. Yeah.
That's fine. Well, we can get the interview with Hairraiser with what was an incredible race from you and your teammate, Doug. Sorry. I'm all over the place at the moment with everything that's just happened. My head is all over the place with the results of that race. Doug and Hairraiser, you were fighting with each other for the first and second positions for most of the race, doing a very good job up there. What was it like? Was there any sort of team instructions, team orders? Was it just do your best and try not to knock each other off?
Well, we did. I did try and keep within like as close as I could to Doug, and I thought, well, if we could help ourselves out, we could get quite far, you know, and try and get in front of Bar and the next driver. But it was a bit of a battle, and I'm a bit sweaty, and but it was a bit of a. It was great. It was a good battle. It was very pushing, and unfortunately, Doug lost it on one of the corners. I think his steering went. But apart from that, he would have been right up with us. I think he would have probably got 1-2 if we could.
Yeah, it would have been very nice to see. He could have just got there in the end with. Sorry, I'm trying to remember everything going on. It was an absolute crazy finish of the race. Petrolhead winning and the third place.
Yeah, he did an awesome job.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. But that was an intense finish. You almost came from spending most of the race in 4th position to challenging for the win. What was that like?
Very intense. From me trying to help Petrol, catching up to Hairraiser and Doug.
I did notice that. It seemed for a while you were fighting with him for quite a few laps, and then it seemed once you... I think you must have realised that Petrol was starting to gain on them, and you must have thought, well, bugger it, I'm just going to give you a hand, push you along.
Yeah, me and Petrol was battling for a while, and then I decided to work with them, and it ended up working.
And it was working.
Absolutely love seeing that on stream. It made for a
well.
great race at the end.
And then, yeah, the ending, I kind of spun it, so I'm glad I got 3rd at least.
Hopefully we can manage to get Petrolhead in here to have a chat with the winner of the race. It was absolutely incredible seeing him go from pole position down the order and fighting back to get within the top spots. It's not often that you see that sort of a race, even over an hour long, with 4 drivers just never knowing what could happen between them.
No, it was a bit of a push all the time.
I tell you, it was definitely a battle for my
intense.
throat to stay working the entire time.
Yeah, we didn't even know who was going to make it. It was like it was just a push, you know, and everyone was really concentrating really hard, and it was intense. You know, there was a few mishaps, but what a race!
I think it
Yeah,
just
right
goes
at
to
the
show.
end, I had to save some fuel because I was running low.
Absolutely, it just goes to show, with this being the first race of the series, you can tell what the rest of the championship is going to be like. It really sets the standard for the other races happening. As we say
there's
that,
Petrol.
Petrolhead, the race winner, has joined us in the party. Petrolhead,
Hello.
what are
Hello.
you... What is going through your mind right now with going from pole to fourth, battling with Bar for a good few laps, getting a helping hand halfway through the race, catching back up and taking the win? What is going through your mind?
I will say that I wasn't expecting Bar to help me drag back up to Razor and Doug. I will thank him for that. I was fully expecting to be battling Bar for third place for most of the race after dropping back. I am very ecstatic, actually. I fully expected not to keep up with the two Mercs after they pulled away, because they were working together so well. I had actually, middle of the race, settled for third. I'm not gonna lie, so...
We were
Yeah,
seeing both of the SGM Costa Racing Mercedes-Benz pulling away, doing a very good job, but then as they started to, it seemed, throw caution to the wind and decide, well, screw it, we both want to take this win, battling each other for position and losing quite a bit of time, you started to reel them in. That must have been the moment that you thought, hey, I've got a shot here, let's go.
Yeah, I did think that. I was watching to see if Bar was going to make a move, because I wasn't entirely sure. But as I started reeling them in, I did start thinking, yeah, I could be on cards for a win. It could be a great start to the season. And yeah, I'm just...
Lost for words.
Yeah,
You can
lost for
hear it,
words.
just the craziness of that battle. The entire race, there was not even any low points, no quiet points. It was just action, action, action. And for an hour-long race, as I was saying to both Hairraiser and Bar here, it really set the standard for the rest of the season and how close we can expect the racing to be from you guys.
I am quite ecstatic. Although I think looking at the calendar, I don't think the next few races are going to be good for me. Actually, what is it? We've got the next race is going to be. Let me find it.
Brands Hatch, I think.
Brands Hatch, yeah, Brands Hatch, and then the Mountain, which are both very weak tracks for me, and the Jag in a nutshell. So it's those two races are going to be damage limitation for me.
You must be then
It
ecstatic
is.
to get as many points on the board as you can here, with not only pole to get yourself in a good position, but first place. It must really help your championship aspirations now if you're not feeling confident in the next couple of races, to give yourself a jump start and a boost.
Yeah, this is the perfect start to the season. The perfect start to the season.
And Hairraiser, Bar, you both must be on a very similar playing field. What do you feel like for the next couple of races coming up?
Well, I know I've got to work a bit harder.
Oh,
Try and keep Bar and Super behind me.
Absolutely. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure watching you guys battle it out. Tough luck to Doug Barrow, because that was an absolute epic where he was leading for most of the race with yourself, Hairraiser, and unfortunately just not managing to keep it on the track in the dying parts of the race.
Yes.
It really did make for an exciting finish. Hopefully the next race for you guys goes better. Again, thank you for the entertainment, thank you for the race, and we look forward to round 2.
yeah. Thank you very much. I do look forward to round 2. Best of
was a
luck,
good
you
race.
two. I hope we can battle for the entire championship.
And you too,
Yeah,
buddy.
same to you.
Awesome sportsmanship from our drivers. We have had an absolutely awesome start to the season, and we will see you guys again next time for round 2 of the SRS Motorsports Tier 2 League. See you guys later.